Chapter 56. Life as Music and Analogy. A preliminary disclaimer. All persons in this book are fictional. All statements, regardless of subject, are merely statements. Some are rooted in empirical fact. Others are products of pure imagination. My intention is to balance vision and reality, fiction and fact, in such a way that readers may recognize themselves and continue building upon the swarm of ideas and associations presented. The book does not seek to preach an overarching purpose. Rather, it questions accepted truths and, in a Socratic spirit, leaves the conclusions to the reader. Freeman had become personally involved with his fellow student Met. At the outset, they had agreed, implicitly at least, to remain professional students, meaning without emotional entanglement. That balance was disrupted the moment Freeman sent her a text message on a Sunday morning. She could, after all, have had visitors, perhaps a boyfriend, perhaps a particularly close friend. From Freeman's perspective, Sunday morning was an unfortunate choice. He had invited her on a trip to the Persbroughton outdoor area. She read the message but replied with a rejection. Not because she didn't want to go. On the contrary. She very much did, but for strategic reasons. Freeman was not going to get off that easily. Monday arrived. The schedule showed a study group meeting at 10 a.m. and lunch at 11:30 in the campus book tower. Freeman felt uneasy, butterflies fluttering in his stomach. Seeing Met after his faux pas might be awkward. He had already informed the program coordinator that he would not serve as moderator that day. The seminar revolved around two broad fields, geopolitics and sociology, with a particular emphasis on the sociology of music. One of the other students, a highly capable sociology student with music, dance, and drama as her specializations, had taken on the role of discussion leader. Before long, everyone sat spellbound by her explanations. Freeman's nervousness evaporated like dew in sunlight. He threw himself into the discussion, supplementing several ideas, perhaps with a slightly instructive tone at times, but the group as a whole became engaged. The session was a success. And eventually it was time for lunch. Met had avoided Freeman's gaze until the break approached. Then their eyes met. Freeman politely asked whether she would join him on the way up the tower, with its familiar spiral staircase and adjoining cafe. Met agreed. She was prepared for whatever might come, though the outcome remained uncertain. They walked together up the narrow stairs. The group found a table by the window. Freeman and Met ended up seated at the far end, facing the library. The seating itself was irrelevant. What mattered was what Freeman would say. The unease returned. He faltered. How should he phrase his words? How could he avoid losing face? Met, too, waited expectantly. She had initiated a game that could unfold in several directions. Strategic distance is common in the early stages of a relationship. A foolish game, perhaps, but one based on making oneself scarce. Met held the stronger hand. Freeman began at a disadvantage. The scene now shifts, from the cafe table to the outdoors, to a steep rock face, a climbing wall used by amateur climbers. Freeman was alone. Met was not there. It was Monday evening. Lunch already felt distant. He needed to redirect his thoughts, and climbing served him well. It also allowed space to reflect on the day's discussion, particularly its focus on musical dramaturgy. In opera or staged musical performance, everything depends on how the elements are woven into a coherent whole, presented within a clearly defined time frame. Life does not work that way. In practice, everyday life has no clear beginnings or endings. It unfolds as a continuous stream of events, fragments of time stitched together during waking hours. Sleep and wakefulness might be considered chapters, But for those who dream often, even that boundary blurs. The dilemma of time-bound tasks is the choice between shortcuts and thoroughness. Because life is short, we often opt for quick solutions to finish sooner, believing our surroundings demand it. It is like climbing this rock wall quickly, unsecured and irresponsible, rather than taking the time to use proper protection. As a student of music theory, Freeman had long been fascinated by how composers modulate between keys. Some relied on shortcuts, techniques that were quickly exposed and dismissed as cheap. Others followed the functional logic of the circle of fifths, often enhanced with chromatic alterations, and achieved far more convincing results. That, Freeman thought, was worth remembering as he considered the next modulation, with Met.